Hello everyone, welcome to this webinar after so many months of me disappearing, being somewhere else. Very happy to see all of you here. I'm still a little bit uncertain whether everyone can use the chat provided here. So if you could type something into the chat box just to let me know how comfortable you are. Thank you very much. And just to confirm that you can hear me, that you can see me, all the usual things. Thank you very much, Sheila. And thank you, Rachel, of course. So here I am after a major move, which has changed my life, my lifestyle quite considerably. Some people ask me, why? Why did you decide, after more than 13 years of living and working in the UK, why I decided to move to the Eastern Europe, to Bulgaria? Well, Brexit played its role, of course, but it's not the main reason, of course. I could probably survive Brexit, but my life in those 13 years in the UK was like, I worked as a highly paid software developer. I bought an expensive house, and it was like, earn as much money as you can, then pay the mortgage, then earn again, and it was like a vicious circle, which left very little time and energy for my projects. And what's most important for me in this life is my astrology and numerology projects, not earning money and spending it. So I was thinking what to do, and about a year ago, more than a year ago already, you know that I decided to stop working for the other people and to start creating courses on astrology. I was also planning to start courses on numerology, but it was only a half of the solution, because I was still paying that crazy mortgage. I still had that, habit of living in an expensive manner, and the country itself is quite expensive. There are many taxes and things to pay for. So I thought maybe I should change my life even further. And we were thinking, I spoke to my wife, and she agreed that yes, we could change our life. We are still young enough to do that. And we decided to move to, also living in the UK for so many years, you begin to think that there are warmer and sunnier places in the world, and perhaps we could move to somewhere which is warmer, by a warm sea, where there are more days of sunshine. And so we started looking around, and the stereotype in the UK to move to a sunnier place would be to go to Spain, or to Portugal perhaps, or to France. And we considered those options. We traveled to a couple of places actually, and looked around, and all those countries are nice, but we are not pensioners. We keep working, we keep earning money, and those countries, they have plenty of bureaucracy, they have very high taxes, and not only taxes, you need also to figure out there are many kinds of taxes, and you need to pay all of them at different times of the year. So it's another job to pay all those taxes. So it didn't look very attractive for me, and we kept looking. And after some time, we found this country, Bulgaria, which has a 10% income tax, which has a very affordable property. And in the end of this journey, I'm sitting here in this beautiful, spacious house in a few kilometers from the warm sea, from a wonderful beach. And I own it without any mortgage, which is very nice. Now I came to this place, to this situation when I can fully devote myself to my dear projects, astrology, numerology, without distracting myself or earning some money to pay to some bank. And I managed to break that vicious circle. But it's only now in October that I can say that, okay, I'm coming to the life I have envisaged. But the previous I don't know, 7, 8, maybe 9 months were quite stressful. First, there were quite a few different things. First, we had to sell our house in the UK, which is an adventure of its own. Then we were driving our car from the UK to Varna, in Bulgaria, to the Black Sea, across the whole Europe. The British car with the right steering wheel, which was also quite an adventure, but it was a pleasant one, no problem. And finally, we bought this house, and it needed a refurbishment, so we had people working inside, outside, and also it's an expensive adventure. I had to earn some money, so once again I decided, okay, this is my last project. I will sell my time once again, last time, and I undertook a programming project for a company in the UK, and I managed to convince them that I will be working from Bulgaria remotely most of the time, coming to the office just once a month, but it still was a full-time job. I'm saying though it was, because now I took a month off, and then I will be just handing over the project to some permanent developers, and I hope to gradually just to leave the project. It supported me through the move, but and yes, on top of all that, I was also working on my MA dissertation for the University of Wales, Trinity St. David. And it was the end of a 4 years journey when I was studying under the guidance of Nick Campion, who is the former president of the Astrological Association of Great Britain. And now he's a professor in that university, and he created this wonderful program. I enjoyed studying it, but most of all, I enjoyed working on my dissertation because its topic was astrometeorology, or predicting weather with the help of astrology. And this is my long-time interest. You maybe heard something about astrometeorology from me in the past. And but I never had enough time to really study it properly, to undertake an in-depth study. And here I had to do that for my dissertation. So I'm very happy with what I managed to do. And just to tell you a few words, maybe you are interested in astrometeorology, maybe not, just a brief overview of what I managed to do. In my questionnaire, which I will offer to you in the end, I have there are only a few questions there, but the last question in it is, are you interested in astrometeorology? Because now that I've written a dissertation about it, I am in a good position maybe to create some course teaching astrometeorology. But usually in a university, they don't allow you to simply, to study astrometeorology, how to predict weather with astrology. It's not an academic topic. So they want you to plug yourself into some academic discussion. And here the academic topic was like the difference between judicial and natural astrology. If you have some experience of learning astrology of reading astrological books, you probably know that there is such a classification in astrology. There is astrology judicial and astrology natural. And I collected pretty much all the opinions of what is judicial and what is natural. And I was surprised how different are opinions of different prominent astrologers, of different academicians. They define these words very, very differently, sometimes in an incompatible way. But the general idea is that through the history of astrology, there was always astrology which was frowned upon by the church, by the scientists, by the philosophers, and there was a kind of astrology which was deemed more or less harmless. And the one which was frowned upon was a kind of astrology which was dealing with people, with people's initiatives. For example, natal astrology is clearly no, from the point of view of religion, philosophers, because how can you judge what the person is going to do, what his or her future? Because it's the matter of the God, it's not the matter of some stupid astrology, you know. And horror astrology is also a kind of which is thrown upon and criticized and ostracized. And there are different kinds of astrology which are dealing with people and their initiatives and their souls, people's souls. They they were criticized by many people through the history of astrology. But there were kinds of astrology which were dealing like astrometeorology with predicting weather. There's nothing wrong about it. If you can predict weather, the church will tell you nothing. And one of the definitions from some old encyclopedia was saying that natural astrology is dealing with predicting tides or the date of Easter, all those natural things. And so academicians believe that, yeah, there is some astrology which is harmless, which is, you know, it's like science a little bit. Like there are probably some laws. It doesn't need any astrologer's judgment, and so on and so on. So I won't go too deep into this. I can keep speaking about my dissertation for hours, maybe for months. I don't know. It's not the time for that. Basically, I managed to find all the sources about astrometeorologists, starting from Ptolemy's Tetrabiblos. And in Tetrabiblos, Ptolemy does describe how to predict weather with astrology in a rather not very detailed way, without examples, but there is quite a detailed explanation. And I followed this astrometeorology tradition through to the 21st century. There is a book by Riske, published in the 21st century already, which describes the contemporary approach to astrometeorology, which is not that difficult, which is not that different from what Ptolemy was describing. It's the tradition. And there were quite some amazing example of how astrometeorology was used in the 20th century. For example, a prominent astrologer and astrometeorologist at that time has predicted a major snowstorm in New York half a year before it happened, and sent hundreds of letters to all the radio stations in the United States, warning them that there will be this event. So he was quite famous. McCormack was his surname, and he was quite famous in his time for predicting major weather events with astrometeorology. So I've written that dissertation. I submitted it on the 30th of September, and that was it. That was done and dusted. If you are interested in astrometeorology, tell me, and I will find a way to share with you what I have accumulated, the knowledge, the facts, the approaches. But now I'm coming to the situation that I can really work on my projects. And what are the priorities for me? Well, the main, you probably found me originally through my website, Lunarium, which has quite a few different features, which are quite popular. Tens of thousands of people are coming to this site. And it was created more than 10 years ago, I think, in the form that it exists right now. Mostly everything was created then. And then I filled the database with information until the year 2020. At that time, 10 years ago, 2020 looked like very, very far in the future. And also I created this website using a technology which at that time was okay, not very new, but still okay. And now I see this Lunarium project as a major part of what I'm doing. But unfortunately, it's becoming outdated. First thing is that most people are now browsing the web using mobile devices, using phones. I can see the stats of people coming to Lunarium and I can see that those are mostly phones, actually. Some tablets, and not so many people are using desktop web browsers as they did 10 years ago. Also, Google starts finding me for not creating a website which would work very well on mobile devices. So I had like 30,000 visits per day previously. Now it's down to 16, 17,000 visits. I need to go back to that level where many more people could enjoy the website, and it needs work. So what I want to do, I'm going to completely recreate, rebuild this Lunario website using the most up-to-date, the most contemporary platform I can choose. I spent quite a bit of time deciding which platform to use. And I won't bore you with the technicalities, but I can tell you that platform I've chosen is so new that it's still in beta. It still wasn't released officially, but it's already good enough to use it for building a website. And it's a mobile first platform, first of all, but also these days the idea of progressive web apps is becoming popular. And progressive web app is a web application, is a website basically, which you can view on your mobile device, and it will look like a mobile app, like a native mobile app. But it will look like that on both iPhones and Android and Windows phones and anything. And it's so good that you can, for example, you can be on the train where you don't have an internet connection, but it will still work offline. If it's cleverly enough designed, it will still work offline. And this is the kind of website I want to create with the same content as current Lunarium, but on a completely new future-proof platform. And I want to load the database with astronomical data until the year 2050, so that I will be already in a different world somewhere, but Lunarium will keep working for people, will keep delivering them the information which they value. So that's the idea. I started building the website. I'm in the very beginning. Hello? It's telling me I'm live, but I don't see myself in the first place. Can you see me? Okay. If you reload. Okay, okay. It looks the network connection has disappeared for some reason for a while, but it seems that it was restored now. And I hope you see me now. Can you see me? Okay, great. Thank you. Well, it's still Bulgaria. We have sometimes we live in a village not far from Varna, and most of the time everything is fine. But sometimes the electricity might disappear for a few seconds, or network connection, whatever. But I hope most of the time it will still work. And yeah, it seems now we are working again. So what I was telling you, I don't know if you heard me or not. I typed in the chat window the web address of the new version of Lunarium. It's https://lunarium.co without .uk, because I moved from UK and I thought it's not appropriate to be .co.uk. So it's going to be lunarium.co. If you check that, there is already a few pages, nothing major, nothing live yet. I'm still working on the layout, no design, no nothing. I'm just beginning. It's a few days since I started building the foundation of this website, but it's already like a responsive or progressive web app. It will size nicely, hopefully, on mobile devices. And currently, it does look uglier on desktop web browsers. So this is it. So my priority now is building Lunarium in the first place. Then there are mobile apps which needs an update. But I'm thinking now that if this platform will work so well as I hope, then probably all my activities will be around the website, the Lunarium website, and all the new features will go to the website, not separate mobile apps. But we shall see. Still, my idea is that what I want to achieve, what is my aim, is that I want astrology to be more usable, serious, proper, complex astrology to be more usable in the way that software, the programs which I'm creating, the website, will handle all the difficult, all the technical stuff, and present to you the details which you can then interpret, because no program will be able to do the creative parts, to interpret, to use intuition, to figure out what's going on in human life. So I want the program to bring you the results of calculation, the results of some formal analysis, to show you the symbols which you would then need to interpret and to understand what's going on. And to have people, in order to have people who are able to understand those symbols, who are able to understand what's the aspect of parallel and why it's important that two planets are in parallel and things like that. What's the declination? Why it's important that the planet is crossing the equator, or that's in an extreme declination, and other things like that. They're not, well, they are technicalities, but you don't need to calculate them, because the program, the software website, the apps will report them to you. But I need people who will be able to understand that and interpret that. And we already have advanced astrologers like that. I see Rachel is in the audience. She's quite comfortable with things like that. But I think Rachel would also appreciate if, uh, for example, one of the things I want to do, I want this software to report directly to the user in a very convenient way all the aspects happening today. And just one little thing, including parallels. There are programs that can do that, but you need to go to some website, you need to do some search, to do some calculation. Instead, that program would be sending you like an up-to-date and like a short list of what's going on this day, and not only in the sky, but also related to your natal chart, little things like that. But to minimize the effort and to maximize the information coming from astrology. So what I want to say is that I still think that teaching astrology is an important task for me. And now I'm looking back at the courses which I started last year, and I can see a lot of mistakes which I made at that time, and I understand why I made those mistakes, because I was in that situation when I was still in that vicious circle, and I wanted to produce a lot of results in a very short period of time. So I tried to create a lot of courses in English, in Russian, and I was working like 24/7 almost, and I wasn't satisfied with what was going. I was making mistakes, and I'm currently looking back at my efforts a year ago, and I wanted to share with you my understanding of what was reached then. So let me share with you the screen. The screen. I hope you see my screen now. It displays the courses. Don't pay attention to the prices. The prices are a bit higher than you are used to, because I'm in the European Union, so Teachable, the platform which is used for the courses, adds 20% VAT immediately. For example, astrological forecasting for everyone should be 199. And also, I think most people, if not everyone who is now taking part in this webinar, are already familiar with all these courses. So I will be mostly speaking for people who will be viewing the recording of this webinar. But everyone will be able to get these courses with a 30% discount. So from the prices which is displayed here, disregard 20% because that's VAT, that's in European Union, and also from the remaining prices you will get a 30% off using the coupon which you will find below the video. There is a coupon code, and every course in this Astroschool will carry that discount for 1 week only, 1 week after the end of this webinar. So the very first course which I created was astrological forecasting for everyone, and it was quite massive. And the idea, I wanted to imagine, this is this course. I wanted to imagine the target audience which would be interested in this course. It's got some very good reviews. It's quite an extensive course. It's got hours of videos. It's got many handouts, and the idea was thought that the target audience would be people who were only interested in popular astrology. For example, people who only knew about the signs of the zodiac, and I could show them how to do those popular forecasts. People who used to reading popular forecasts, I was going to tell them, look, you can write those popular forecasts yourself. And so I created this course which teaches the very basics of astrology, step by step, very slowly. Planets, houses, and one problem with this course was that the audience which came to me to study it was quite a bit different from what I envisaged. There were some people who were like for whom I was targeting the course, people who know astrology and came to learn the basics of astrology here. There were advanced astrologers like Rachel, who also benefited from this course, because many astrologers are earning the money by writing popular astrological forecasts. And I don't know if Rachel had the chance to earn something already with this approach. I was writing popular astrological forecasts for a number of years, earning my living with the help of that. So I'm sharing basically my experience in this course. And but there were many people who knew astrology, proper astrology, horoscopic astrology, but not as confidently as Rachel, for example, or other experienced astrologers. They knew that there are different houses, and they were like uncomfortable with what I was teaching. I was teaching solar houses, and they were saying, "Look, my second house not where you're saying it is. It's in a different place." So it was a little bit tricky, but this course has a lot of value, primarily when used by either people who don't know astrology, or who know astrology very well and want to learn how to write confidently and competently popular astrological forecasts. It's a detailed course, and I have several people who completed it and who received the certificate. And another mistake I think I did with this course is that I promised to check homework. There is a lot of homework on this course, and I promised that I will be checking all that homework myself and giving feedback to everyone. And that was simply impossible. That was totally impossible, and I had a huge backlog, and I was coming to that homework and checking it when I could, but that was a struggle. That was a struggle. I had a professional version of this course on offer, where I was promising to be checking personally the homework, to giving feedback. I removed that professional version of the course. I left only the basic version, and I think it's still worth the money, but I'm not promising to be checking the homework. It still would have a lot of value, but if someone will subscribe to this course and they will feel that they need someone to be guiding their hand, to be helping them out through the course, to giving them feedback. I have a number of students, very good students, who successfully completed this course. And I'm thinking now that if my students would volunteer, if I will have someone to subscribe to this course, to be guides, to help people to read their homework, to give them feedback on their homework. For some, I would charge those people some additional fee, which would go directly to these guides, to these volunteers. But that's still a project. That's still a project. I need to see if I will be able to get some students for this course. And the second course, which I was creating, I created 3 modules so far, was about major astrology. Major astrology is a very interesting, very creative kind of astrology, which offers unusual solution for practical problems of human life. And I was happy to be able to start this course. But it's an enormous field of study, major astrology. There's a lot in it. But what I came to is that this is exactly a kind of astrology where you need some special software, which will there are some complex structures which are calculated here, like quads, a lot of attention paid to parallels, and common astrological software just doesn't do those things for you. And you don't want it to be bogged down by all these technicalities. So I delayed the continuation of this course until my website will be able to handle all those calculations needed for this kind of astrology. And what I'm thinking of now, let me switch back to the camera. What I'm thinking of now, what could be done. In the last year or so, I managed to publish my two Russian books. They were published many years ago, but they went out of print. And then I managed to find another publisher. And they were published in a very nice new format. I will show you, give me a second. I will show you one of those books. Here is the numerology book, and the astrology book looks very similar. It's over 500 pages thick. It's very nicely published. It's very well done. It's quite expensive in Russian standards, but what's interesting, since these books were published about half a year ago, the publisher had 2 or 3 times to print additional what it's called, so print more books basically, because they were sold out already twice or thrice, I don't remember. So they became quite popular, and this is interesting because I think the previous version of these books were not as popular. So what I'm trying to say, I see like there is a new wave of interest in astrology coming, might be, at least in Russia. I don't know how it's in the West. But what's interesting, there are many young people who are becoming interested in astrology and who study it actively. And what's very pleasant for me about these books is that many current professional astrologers are writing to me to tell me, to say thank you for my book. The book is teaching basics of astrology. It's called Teach Yourself Astrology. But maybe the approach is different from many other books, because it reflects my desire to understand to understand the basic very well. For example, I am discussing what's the difference between when the planet is in its own sign or when it is in exaltation. And I think these little details, which are often skimmed over in many astrological books, are important for understanding the astrological chart, are important for understanding astrology. And so many times already I received emails from the current Russian professional astrologers who thanked me for this book, because they say this book paved their path into astrology. They started from it and then went further. So there is no way for me to publish these books in English, of course, because I will never find a publisher in the West. But what I was thinking is that I could create a course like this, similar to what I was trying to achieve with astrological forecasting for everyone, but this time it will be a proper horoscopic astrology, starting from the very basics, patiently going and creatively going step by step, explaining every tiny detail in practice, showing examples, the examples of students maybe studying the course, something like that. It's to make this to make this course a priority, I would need, well, some substantial number of people, at least I would say 50 people interested in this course. If I will have that amount of people, I would try to undertake something like this. So my question to you, I don't know if those who are present on this webinar would be interested. Maybe you are my long-term students, maybe already too experienced in astrology, maybe your knowledge goes very far already, or maybe not. But I hope that the recording of this webinar will be also viewed by some people. And maybe currently my priority is Lunarium, the new version of Lunarium, the new website. But if I will have, I'm very interested in creating an English version of this course, which is the result of teaching astrology for many years, proper horoscopic astrology. The aim would be to start from the very basics and to bring people to the level where they will be more or less confidently to read natal chart and to use the popular methods of forecasting. I'm saying more or less confidently because in astrology, sometimes we are getting puzzles. Every natal chart is unique, and sometimes even an experienced astrologer can get a natal chart which will be difficult to understand. And some natal charts are very easy to understand. But that's just the nature of astrology. We can change that. But still, when you're confident in your skills of interpreting charts, you will understand at least something essential about every person. So I want to achieve that level of knowledge starting from the very beginning, and the format would be probably similar to what I did with astrological forecasting for everyone, but with the difference would be that I would take into account the experience that I've learned so far. So I would find a more efficient way to communicate with students, which we had there. I was thinking that I could have recorded lessons with handouts so that people could go through them in their own time, with their own pace. But then we could have webinars where we could come together, people who reached a certain level, a certain stage in the course. We could create a webinar and come together and discuss the charts of the participants of the course, something like that. This is still very, it's just a beginning of me thinking about what could be done. But this is something I wanted to discuss with you. And to help me to figure out what can be done, I would ask you, under this video, you will see a link to the form which I created, a questionnaire. It's a very simple questionnaire. There are 3 or 4 questions in it only. So if you could fill it in and help me to understand if there is a demand for such a course that I'm thinking of, then I would probably go for it and put it at the same level of importance as the new version of Lunarium. But if there isn't, then I will just concentrate for now on the website. I think it will take a number of months before it will be completed, maybe 3, 4, or maybe half a year. That's a major project, and I want to do this website properly for many years to come, so that I didn't touch it anymore and it would work and for decades, for people bringing them valuable, important information about astrology, about space, about their own lives. So this is it. This is what I wanted to say. I lost the window where I could see your comments when. Let me try to restore it. Give me a second. Maybe I will be able, because when we lost connection, that window has disappeared. So if you have questions, please ask them in the chat, and I will now go and restore my access to the chat. Few clicks away. So, yes. Right, I am good. I have the chat window here. Let me see. So if you have any questions right now, any comments. Yes, well, astrometeorology. I'm very keen. I would be very keen. I would be very keen to teach that, because I've got a lot of that stuff in my head. But you know what's interesting? You know what's interesting? First of all, first one thing which surprised me over the years, when I started speaking to people about predicting weather with astrology, that you can predict weather for as many months or years ahead as you wish if you have this knowledge, they were like not very enthusiastic. I don't know. Maybe they were thinking, well, we've got meteorologists already. They know everything. They've got all the satellites, you know. But they forget that meteorologists actually are observing what's going on in the world and then trying to project that for a few days into the future. They can't go any further than 1 week or maybe 10 days, never more than that. But there is a lot of interesting stuff in astrometeorology. But the other interesting fact about astrometeorology is that it was always, for example, in the Middle Ages, there were hundreds and hundreds of treatises, very detailed books, basically, written about astrometeorology. Unfortunately, written mostly in Latin. But there are still hundreds of those treatises in different libraries of Europe and of the world. But what I was reading a work by an academician who was studying, who found those treatises, who translated a little bit of them. But what he was surprised with is that all those, at that time, astrometeorology was studied in the universities across Europe. There were professors of astrology and astrometeorology, and they were studying all this stuff very attentively. But what surprised him is that they were studying and publishing it not for, you know, farmers, or not for the folk to know when it will be raining or something. They were studying it and writing all those treatises for astrologers, because astrometeorology is a unique tool which proves that astrology works, really works, in a very interesting way. And it will help you to figure out that, for example, the aspect of parallel is very important, because you will see how powerful it works in weather. It's a very unique branch of astrology, very interesting, quite complex it can be, as everything in astrology actually. But I would be very keen to teach it. The only problem is that I need, well, let's say at least 20 people interested in astrometeorology to start creating the course. And it would be quite extensive, because, you know, I've learned how Ptolemy was doing predicting weather. There was a very good, methodically very advanced astrometeorologist. I don't know if he was practicing astrometeorology himself in the 20th century. There was such an astrologer and mystic, C.C. Zane. He created many different courses, and his course of astrometeorology is superb. It's very detailed, it's very systematic, it's almost algorithmical. And there were other approaches in the Middle Ages, in the 17th century, 18th century, a lot of interesting information. So yeah, if there will be, if I will be able to have an audience for astrometeorology, I will be very keen to create that course. let's see. If Rachel, could you maybe share this idea with people you know? Maybe other people could speak to experience. You would need to know astrology already quite well, the basics of technical astrology, the basics of horoscopic astrology. You would need to know that. I'm not going to learn the very basics in the astrometeorology course. We'll be learning how to predict weather, not what the planets are. Although we'll have to learn the weather meaning of the planets, of course, and things like that. So if I could have an audience, I would create this astrometeorology course, and I think it would be very useful for many people, for many astrologers in the first place, because it shows you that astrology really works. You don't need to believe when you see how weather changes according to all those weather configurations. And this is it. So please, did you manage to find that link under the video, which a questionnaire for webinar participants? There is a link. Please answer those questions if you can. Not all of them are, you can answer any of them, or none of them, or all of them, as you wish. And yes, if you wish to take any of the courses which I mentioned today, which I showed, the courses offered by Astroschool, lunarium.co.uk, then you have you see this coupon code. With it you will get a 30% discount, but it will be only valid for 1 week starting from now. This is it. If there are no questions, are there any questions? Let me check. If there are no questions, then I want to thank you for coming today to this webinar and for interacting with me, for giving me feedback. Sorry for my networking problems. You see, it was mostly okay. It was mostly fine, just one interruption. I hope the recording will still work. So that's it. And let's keep in touch. I will be sending newsletters regularly. Not sure how regularly, but at least once in a fortnight, I should be able to do that, with updates telling you where I am, what I'm doing, what's happening in the sky, maybe some interesting things. For example, the 14th of October, Mercury will be making conjunction with Venus. I always like those days when this happens, because there is very pleasant, smooth communication usually flowing between people, and they're good. Those days are just pleasant for learning and for reading and for communicating between people. So this is it. Thank you very much, and see you in the next time. Thank you. Bye-bye.